Mark, Medicine.
Hi.
You're on your way to the UK.
I'm in London at the moment.
Oh, are you already in London?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
I meant to tell Shingy, I also had a problem with my emails, my Monash emails. I put a forward for all those emails to join my normal emails.
Yes.
But they're not working. The forward doesn't work. So for everybody, just double check it. I double checked now and I see that there is the emails I received that it's not forwarding to my normal email address. So we have to check both.
You might have to check both, but we'll sort it out on Saturday. I'll make sure. You want to send it to your Outlook, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'll sort it out on Saturday.
Thank you.
What happened to Laverne?
She's got a technical issue, and it looks like she decided to give up. I'm actually in the bushveld. I'm on the team building thing of my company, so I can't help her. And, I think there's a microphone.
Okay. Shame. If she can hear us, it might be worth her while to hear.
Can we just ask her to log in again?
Can you have contact with her and perhaps say to her, even if she can't speak to us, if she can hear what I have to say and what else has to say, it might be a good idea for her to be involved.
Cool.
Ludi?
Yeah.
She left a message saying that sorry, she'll exit and watch the recording later.
Sorry, say again?
She left a message in the group chat saying sorry, we'll exit and watch recording.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like that's us. Hi, welcome to this week and our discussion. What I would like to do is to perhaps just get stuck into the assessments of week 1, and apart from what I've already posted and what you've reread, and there were 1 or 2 emails between myself and some of you, let me perhaps just take you through what I sort of experienced from these submissions, and perhaps just give you a few tips for the future. So if I can kick off, the first one was the discussion forum. I was pretty happy with the discussion forum, but it may be a good idea. I tried to respond to each posting and just perhaps look at it from a point of view of making a few comments to stimulate thought and to ask maybe a question and so on. And if I did respond to your discussion or your posting, it might be a good idea, specifically where I've asked a question, just to respond back to me so that we can have a two-way conversation on that. That obviously is not seen as you commenting on someone else's posting, because that's for marks, okay? But it is a good idea if you perhaps can come back. Hello, Levin.
Hello. Doctor. Ludi, if you can hear me, your sound is blocked. We don't hear you.
Okay, let me unmute.
Okay.
That's better. We can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. For some strange reason, it muted itself.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, then, and lady, as I said to you, I was actually quite happy with the discussion forum. I think there were some very good postings, and there were also some very good comments on the posting. So all in all, I was quite satisfied with that. The second one, the personal creative traits. The purpose of that particular one is for you to really just have a look, and you can obviously went through all of them, and I've asked you to identify the 3 strongest traits and also the 3 where you believe were the weakest traits. And and then you had to sort of explain or elaborate or outline how you could improve on the 3. Now, can I tell you a different story? In the final engineering class, there was a question on how to measure from a very high sort of area up to ground floor, and there was a certain formula on how to do this. And the idea was that the student would write all of this up in about an hour's time to explain where the formula came from and how to use it and how to actually calculate it and so on. And what this person simply did was to say, well, the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to take a piece of string and I'm going to let it run down to the floor and I'm going to measure it, and that's it. Now, that's the impression I got from, in other words, you found the simplest way of saying how you're going to overcome a particular problem. For example, and I'm not sure it's one of you, but somebody said that the weakest, one of the weakest things is that this person cannot get going. So it's about thinking and about, wanting to get things done, but one of the problems is to not get going. And then the solution was a one-liner to say, I'll have to get off my butt. Now, I like that, but and it's obviously a very good solution, but it's not going to give you a lot of marks if you say that to me, if you hear what I'm saying. Okay, so those of you who got better marks obviously took the weakest areas, explained why they were there, and perhaps give us a little bit more insight into your psyche and yourself, and what you are good at and what you're not so good at, and then how you would approach it and what you could do and what it will take and that sort of stuff. And that's really what I was looking for. You're not matriculants, you're MBA students. So I was looking for a little bit more than just the simplest answer to these things. So on that one, to summarize it for you, I was quite happy. Remember that in week 5, you are going to do this exercise again to see if there were any changes, first of all, in those that you are strong compared from week 1, and also if you've overcome, maybe 1 or 2 of the weaker ones. So all in all, yeah, I was reasonably satisfied, but I just felt that on occasion you could have said a little bit more about how you would overcome the ones. Then we get to the third one, which is the water crisis. And I must confess that I was not impressed with what was submitted here. There were some good ones, but they were the exceptions. I was a bit disappointed. I saw a few good submissions, but in my opinion, this is a serious crisis. This is something which is, as I've put in my posting on news and announcements, by the way, for those of you who haven't perhaps read it or seen it there, I've posted a few comments there. This is one of the most brutal challenges that the Western Cape has had and will have in the past 100 years. And it's obviously a serious problem because it is affecting not only agriculture, it is affecting animals, it's affecting people, it is affecting the tourism industry, it is affecting a lot of people who now live there, and so on and so forth. What I was concerned about is that the majority of you did not even mention the most obvious things that should have been done. And let me summarize it for you. There's wastage, water wastage in the infrastructure. Now, if you did a bit of homework, you would have discovered that in Cape Town, about 15% of all water usage is wasted through infrastructure. In other words, pipes that are leaking, etc., okay? Taps that are just overrunning, and so on and so on. So 15%, but in the Western Cape, it's even worse. It's about 25%. of all water that are used are being wasted. So just by fixing the infrastructural problem, that alone could make a difference of 15 to 25%. Secondly, we get wastage by people. And that's where the majority of you talked about communication, changing perceptions, and so on. Absolutely correct. There's been a massive program to make people aware, even from 2012. And from 2012, for the last 5 years, people have been made aware of it. But it's one of those things, and let me give you another example. We encountered the same problem with HIV and AIDS. If you have unsafe sex with somebody that you don't really know, nothing is going to happen to you immediately. Absolutely nothing. And the next morning you're going to get up and you're going to feel exactly the same as you feel today, and nothing is going to happen to you. So people do not believe that it is a serious problem. And the same thing is happening here about water. I've still got, if I open the tap, the water is still there. If I take the shower, the water is still there. If I use my hose pipe for my garden, the water is there. If I want to wash my car, the water is there. If I stay in a hotel and I open whatever I need to open, the water is there. So therefore, there isn't a problem. And to overcome that problem, obviously, is not that easy. So yes, it is important to focus on that. You can escalate restrictions. You can bring in penalties. They've now gone to different stages, and they're now on 100 liters per person per day. It sounds like a lot of water, but let me assure you it's not. Under normal circumstances, you're going to use that up by 11 o'clock in the morning. So it is a serious problem, okay? So it's wastage by infrastructure, first of all, wastage by people, that could have been addressed. Then thirdly, what are the sort of kind of things that can be done in order to increase the water supply? Now, you can source water from elsewhere. You can truck them in. You can desalt the seawater, and this is called desalinization. There's deep drilling for water. There's using the Camissa Spring, which runs beneath the city. Now, how real that is, I'm not sure. Mark, you came up with that. Thank you for that. There's recycling and the use of grey water. Yes, you can encourage people to buy water tanks and install that. So when there are rain, obviously you can catch some water so that you can use that during the upcoming period, August, September, and October. Another one, which is quite an interesting one, is we keep hearing about the water level being, say, 25%, but only 10% of that 25% is usable because there's sludge of at least about 15%. So something that could be done and should be done for the longer term, because this is not a short-term problem. You know, if we have an act of God and we have absolutely fantastic rain in the next 2 months and the dams are full, hallelujah. But the chances of that happening seems to be slim if one talks to the meteorologists and the people who are supposed to know about the water that we are going to get from rainfall. So one can desludge dams and start with that at least and start making progress there. What I'd also like to do is, and I'm not sure that you are aware of it, but Clem Sunter, who you probably all know is the scenario guru, he's just published these 3 scenarios for the Western Cape. It was in the newspapers yesterday and today. So for those of you who've seen, you know, the English newspapers and the Afrikaans newspapers will probably see an article on that. But let me summarize it for you. Clem Sunter's scenarios is threefold. The first scenario he calls a gift of nature. The second one he calls fluid gold. And the third one is state of emergency. Now, the first one is the gift of nature, where he says a scenario is that there could be abnormally high rainfall in August and September. And of course, he works with probabilities. And he says, after having spoken to the clever people who know and who watch, technologically what might happen and so on, and the historical thing that we've had an under average, rainfall up to now, he says the probability of that is 20%. So what is the result? The result of this particular scenario is that there is going to be, if the abnormal rain happens, then there will be a delayed crisis until next time. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario he calls fluid gold. He says Cape Townians will change their usage and attitude patterns. They will now start listening to the communication about how bad it is. The target of 500 million liters per day will be achieved, and that's the overall target. Authorities will successfully transport water in. Homeowners will start using tanks. They will start recycling water. They will use grey water, and they will introduce, and there will be an introduction of mobile desalting plants. So alliances with all stakeholders will be necessary, and that includes the agricultural industry, the tourism industry, industries, industrial companies, even financial institutions, and also academics who can help in looking at this from a scientific point of view. He says the probability of that happening is 40%. And the result is survival, but on one condition, that all the stakeholders get together and really become serious about this and make this happen. Then the final scenario he calls state of emergency. He says there is a possibility of 40%, that's the probability, of there being a total disaster due to a lack of vision, a lack of cooperation, and a lack of action. Taps will dry up and time is running out. The result is total collapse of the Western Cape. And that's 40%. So 20% for abnormal high rainfall. 20%, yes, people are going to listen and start working together, or 40% of that, and then 40% of total collapse. I thought I'd just share this with you. I found it quite interesting when I read this morning. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I'd love to comment if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So when I took a look at the article, the first reaction I had was that of a solutions-based scenario. So I looked at it with imagination, and I had listed a whole bunch of solutions for the problem. I'm advantaged because I actually come from industry, so I actually understand the water situation in Cape Town very, very, very well. I have people in the industry who understand it well. And I tend to agree with the last scenario posed, that there's a 40% chance that Cape Town actually will be without water. And that's how serious the situation is. I don't believe that they are mobilized. I don't believe that they have communicated enough. And I don't believe they have a plan in action. These desalinization plants are long-term projects, and they actually have proven over the world to be ineffective. So there are a whole bunch of issues, I believe, actually, that are going to obstruct the immediate solution and even the medium-term and the long-term solution. However, when I looked at the task again, I referred to the question. And it says here, individual assignment. With reference to the crisis leadership articles, how would you creatively resolve the water crisis in the Western Cape? So when I took a look at that, I interpreted it to be taking a look at the reference articles. How would you manage this thing theoretically? In other words, you're asking, well, I got the message that you're asking us to interpret the information. So that if we were to be creative, how would we manage the process itself? So I turned my my answer around completely from being solutions-based to saying, let's reference the articles and let's find a pragmatic, organized solution from the articles. Not necessarily addressing the actual water challenge itself, but how I'll go about addressing the challenge. And that was my conflict. I did not know how to answer the question because the question I thought was misleading, if I may be as frank as saying so. So when I looked at it, I was excited because I thought to myself, damn, this is exactly what I know. I have the answers, I think. And I understand industry. I can talk on this for hours. But then when I looked at the question again, I thought to myself, you're actually not asking that. You're asking us to reference this leadership article. And so my answer was based on the leadership article almost entirely, which had merit because in any crisis situation, which this clearly is, you need to find leadership. But that was my approach, not the approach of let's find a solution. So I was misled either through my lack of understanding or through, well, I actually don't quite know how to say, but I really was misled by the phrasing of the question. So if I could make any learnings from this, I would have to clarify this with you first because I was at the point of saying, okay, I could answer it this way, or I could answer it this way. And I had both sets of answers. And I chose the latter because it seemed to be the more scientific approach and it seemed to apply to the question that was posed.
Okay. I hear what you say. Can we just hear, did all of you sort of interpret it like Russell, or did you have a different interpretation? Because I got about half the students gave me, and Russell, by the way, you didn't do too badly. I was looking for a few practical suggestions, which was not there. So yes, you got fairly, not a very high marks, but you got an average mark. So that's fine. Again, when I say average, I mean average of the team of all the students. Okay. There were some that got a little bit high, and there were some that got a little bit lower. The ones who got a little bit lower were less creative, practical in the solutions. The ones who got more interpreted it your way, but also gave me the practical, creative solutions. So can I just hear from other guys? How did you interpret it?
Honey, you're on. So I was just saying, I was pretty confused by it as well, but what I tried to do was just incorporate both. So come up with a creative solution to the actual water problem, and also try and talk about how you'd lead the crisis, if that makes sense.
I was actually looking for both, right? Okay. Johan?
Yeah, on my side, I also interpret very similar to Russell. Originally, I mean, the first run of the discussion that I've started off was on a technical point of view, and done quite a bit of research on newspapers, etc., to see what's the actual status quo. So all the figures and so forth that you've mentioned, yes, at this point in time, I know that it's actually down from 100 to 80 liters per day per person. So I was totally into this topic. It's also basically my work environment. I'm managing this basically on a daily basis as well. So I was quite keen to write all the technical solutions. Again, revert back to the question. And I was also saying to myself, now I'm running away with the topic instead of keeping to what we're supposed to do, which is, I understand the combination. I think that's a better approach and that I can agree with.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Yours is muted, Vanessa.
Sorry, the question did state creative. So I think we must have some clarity, because going forward, fair enough, I also misinterpreted, but going forward, we need to understand what the expectation would be for us. And I ask this in the sense that when asked any question, are you expecting us to answer it from a leadership and managerial point of view or role, or as anyone would from a technical point of view or a practical point of view? Because I think that, again, if you're going to, if and especially for the questions that come up going forward, what is the expectation? Are we going to do it in the context of a managerial leadership context?
Yeah, most of the time that will be the case. Remember, for the MBA's sake, it's about management and it's about leadership. So most of the time it will be. There will be cases where it's got on an individual level, like where you identify yourself or your profile, etc. But most of the time it is from a leadership perspective. But also remember that the whole focus of the MBA is an innovation focus. Now, innovation, the way that we see it, and also for your innovation project, is either about a serious problem or a serious opportunity that you can capitalize on. So it's both. It's managerial, but then again, in my opinion, it would be wrong to answer this particular question that I posed to you by giving me a managerial process that one would follow and only describe the process and not get to the answers. Okay, you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, it's both. Perhaps I should have a look more closely at, specifically identify, what exactly I am asking, and perhaps I'll just check that out in future. But to me, a good answer would have been the interpretation of, yes, from a managerial, from a leadership perspective, but also getting to the practical solutions. And what was lacking for me, and I must say that, what was lacking for me was getting to the answers. I thought I would see more of that, and I didn't see. I saw about half of you covering that, others didn't.
Ludi?
Yes, Russell.
I was particularly disappointed because, as I said, I was excited by the challenge of the question, and I certainly wanted to look at it. And certainly, in fact, I began the approach from not just from my experience and understanding of the situation, because also in media, as you're aware, there's lots of misleading information and lots of theories and notions about how things are done. As I said, I would argue a lot of the proposals that are currently on the table. However, I found that if I had to incorporate both the reference, in other words, if I had referred to the two references, as well as my own ideas, the article would never fit inside the I think it was 1,000 words or 500 words. What was it again?
Yeah, minimum of 800, maximum of 1,000.
Yeah. I would never ever get to the point. So in fact, I actually got to 1,500 words, and I realized that what I was doing is incorporating both. Because I thought there was clever imagination in how to tackle the problem from a management perspective. And I also saw that very clever ways to tackle away from a technical, not just technical, but also a very practical perspective. But it was one or the other. As I said, once again, I felt that the assignment alluded to the referencing, with reference to the crisis leadership articles. How would you creatively solve the problems? If it said, how would you creatively solve the problems in the Western Cape, I would have had a clear definition of how I went about the answer. But because it said with reference to, I was conflicted. However, it's my fault because at that point in time, I should have asked you, please explain further. What did you like me to focus on, or what do you mean by it?
Okay, Russell, thank you for that. Laverne, I saw what you wrote. Yes, it is true. Okay, can I say something? And I'm breaking the laws here that we've set. For me, more is always better than less. I cannot give marks for something that you did not write. The 800 to 1,000 words is a guideline. It's not cast in stone. If you go over, I wouldn't mind. If you go to, when we say around about 1,000 words and you end up on 10,000 words, then I will, think twice about it, and I'll probably send you an email or phone you. But more is better. It's always better to give me more. I would rather read more very sensible things that you say than read less and you didn't cover what you were supposed to cover. So that's just a general statement from my side. But okay, now thank you for that.
Yes, Johan. May I just challenge that? In my work environment, it's also very important to keep to the point. And what I actually liked from my point of view is the number of words is you are limited to that, and you need to be creative with your words to say what you want to say in a possible time.
You're right.
So more, you can always write more. I mean, that's a fact. But this is about the creativity and get to the point, but with your creative ideas and innovations within the shortest number of words. That's how I read.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I'm opening myself open here opening myself for criticism. There's no doubt about it. But like what I'm saying is, if I get 2 pages instead of 1.5 pages, I would not even think twice about it. I would not say, I'm going to do a word count and you went over and I'm going to, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you see that it's going to be tough for you to do it in, say, 1 page and you got to go to 1.5 pages or 2 pages, I wouldn't mind that as long as it's sensible. If it is something that you need to think about and synthesize into 1 paragraph, maybe I'll ask that and then we'll work from there. Okay. Let's move on to week 2, which you are currently busy with, and let's just have a few discussions on that. Your profile, your thinking preferences, does it match what you thought it would? Are you okay with that particular assignment? Any questions about that one?
Yeah, no, I was quite impressed. If I can start off by saying that it was actually quite a nice exercise. I like this type of exercises. Gives me quite a nice opportunity to actually implement it at work as well and to evaluate people. So that's nice. That's a very practical example. The read was good. The exercise was good. The assessment that we have done on my side, the realist came out, which is quite interesting, and which I agree with. So that was very interesting to do. So this week was a very, very positive week for me. Drained work-wise and as well as all the time and effort we're putting at this one time, late nights or late or early mornings, just depending on how you look at it. So it helps a lot to have a very nice topic which is energetic to me. So that I appreciate it. One thing that I just want to ask and just clarify as well on the assessment we did, yes, we have submitted it. And if I understand it correctly, it's now on the wiki page. We need to submit that assessment.
Yes.
The next question I have is the comments we need to do. Do we take that same wiki and do we provide the comments underneath? That's what I did wrong, I think, the previous week. So I just want to clarify that. How do we approach this and where do we provide you the feedback, in what format?
Okay. Shingi, are you there? I think he's...
Yes, sir. I was sleeping, but I've just woken up.
Johan, perhaps just if you could just give your question again to Shingi, because it's about posting of the assignment.
All right. So my question on the assessment that we had done, we have attached it into the wiki. The assessment on the 4-side assessment we did. We need to provide feedback by Sunday. I just want to know in what format and how do we provide this feedback? Do we go into our wiki and underneath the page that we have submitted, the PDF document that we have submitted, do we write our feedback and observations and all that information, do we write it underneath that page that we have submitted, or how do we do that?
All right, I've heard what you said. I think what I will do is give me a chance and I'll just create an assignment so you can just make it easier for yourselves just to submit. So if you check tomorrow, you can for the Sunday assignment. I will create just an assignment below a link to the assignment on the question, and you can just submit it there. I think it'll make it easier for you to submit.
Okay. All right, let's do that. That's great. Okay. Anybody else on that particular one, on your profile? Any comments on that?
Okay, I'll ask another question then, while it's a bit of silence. The other topic that we need to discuss and submit is the Use It Now, which is quite a good topic for me at the moment. My question there is, will we be able to use this week's Use It Now and progress with this for our 5-week unit submission we need to do? It is quite a relevant topic that I have in my situation. And I just want to understand if it will be possible to do that.
Yes, it will be. The short answer is yes, it will be. Have a chat to me. Yes, it's possible. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on that particular one?
Yes. So just to clarify that, obviously you have the option of choosing a relatively simple challenge, or you can choose a complex challenge. I sat debating last night and I thought to myself, well, I would like to choose the most complex challenge I have in my department or in my company as an assignment. But the answers won't necessarily turn out. The nuts and bolts might not be established now in this assignment. But the direction or the path or the way forward might be the result. Would that be adequate enough? I mean, in other words, if I, at the end of the day, choose, well, through the process of creative thinking, find a direction which is novel, unique, new, but I haven't thrashed out the details because it is quite a big assignment. Well, the one I've chosen least is quite a big assignment. Would you be happy that be the result?
It will be fine. Just do me a favor and set the scene for me so that I'm on the same page as you are. So that I understand what your situation is. Yes.
Okay. Good. All right.
Anybody else? Okay. Let's move on to the discussion. How would you, as part of the team, have approached the scenario differently to ensure success? And then you need to post it and obviously then comment on at least 2 postings. Are you comfortable with that particular assignment?
I saw that the posting is actually 1 posting, it's not 2 postings.
I think the previous one was 1 posting.
I saw it was 2, I agree. And then I saw last night it was actually 1 posting, or I read something wrong there. Just confirm that.
On my page, it says 2 postings. To comment on
where you look.
Aha. Okay.
No, it's on the Friday to Sunday summary. It shows choose 1.
Yeah. And then the other one it says 2.
That might be a typo. Okay. Let's make it 2.
Okay.
Let's make it 2. I want to progress from not just commenting on 1 but commenting on 2, just to get your minds a little bit wider. So let's go for 2.
Okay, with regards to the question, once again, when I look at the actual presentation of the question, it says, suppose you were a member of this team. Does that imply that you need to take on a certain persona in the team? Or does that mean that you can be any persona in the team? Or does that mean you can be for example, you could speak from the perspective of any one of those thinking styles. Would you have to state that? So,
if
as for example,
okay, let's assume you assume that you are going to be the leader of the team. Then state that, and then you give me your answer. If you say, I want to assume one of the profiles, establish what that profile is, tell me what that profile is, and then work from there. Just so that, again, that I'm on the same page as you are. But it's up to you how you want to deal with this.
Okay, but you do agree that you can approach it as a leader and not assume a style, or you can approach it as a leader and as one of the styles?
Yep.
Because can I change the question? And the reality is that as more than likely as a member of the group, you would be one of the personality styles. So the assumption then would be then you'd have to approach it from the angle as a personality. Which would mean, for example, that you'd have to moderate your own personality and accommodate others.
No, it's up to your interpretation, Russell. Okay. As long as you tell me, then I'm happy with that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Guys, can I give you? I don't want to say too much about that one. Well, two things I want to say to you is, I am not going to participate in this discussion because I'd like to see what you discuss. I'm going to read it, obviously, but I'm not going to respond to it. So that's the first thing. Secondly. I would like to give you two hints. The first hint is that it is going to be worth your while to carefully analyze each team member's style and role and behavior to see where it went wrong. If you don't do that, you're not going to get to a good solution. Secondly, to outline in your solution what each team member should do. Because it's about individuals. The reason why this whole thing went awry is because of individuals that are either not doing what they're supposed to do, or there's a clash or whatever you find, okay? So the hint I'm giving you is have a good look at what each person has done. And secondly, in your solution, say what each person should do. And that will really help you in your answer. Okay. Good. Then finally, on Saturday, I'm going to give you two presentations on Saturday. The first one is going to be what happens in a company that I had the privilege of working with for 9 years, called the 3M Company. They are known in the world as probably the most progressive company as far as innovation is concerned. And I'm going to give you a presentation on what 3M does. So that'll be the first one. The second presentation I will give you is about the tools. I've created a toolbox for week 3. And there are 3 tools. I'm calling it the 3D toolbox. Consisting of 3 Ds, discover, develop, and disrupt. And under each of these 3, I've taken 4 tools. So all in all, out of about 25 tools that everybody is talking about, I'm giving you 12 tools. So I've already eliminated a number of tools because there's combination of tools, and some tools work better in certain circumstances than other tools and all sorts of things. So I've synergized it back down to 12 tools, and next week you're going to spend some time on the 12 tools. So I'm going to give you a presentation on those 12 tools, and then I've organized a guest speaker who is going to come and talk to you about how they approach innovation in their company. So it should be an interesting one. And then the final thing is we're going to do a discussion on the other assignment that you have this week, which is to identify from the fellows list the top 5 innovations and why they are. And what I'd like you to do is, and this is not obviously going to count for marks on Saturday, but so that we can just have a discussion and say, okay, in my opinion, this is the top innovation, or in my opinion, this is the top innovation and why it is, so that we can have a bit of a discussion about that. And last year we found it particularly interesting because we had 9 students on the Saturday, and not one of them had the same innovation as the other one. So for each one, with their different perspectives, coming from different viewpoints and different backgrounds and so on, it was interesting to see how it was. Now, I'm expecting the same to happen this Saturday. So let's have a good discussion about the top innovation that's ever happened. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the fellows list. It could be something that's happened subsequent. Okay. All right. Any questions about Saturday and next week?
Can you hear me, Eduri?
Themba?
Can't hear me?
Can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Themba, you want to say something?
Yeah, it doesn't look like you can. You can't hear
No,
me?
It's showing on my computer that you've muted, Themba. Your computer is muted. Okay.
Themba, please speak now. Just speak. Don't press the mute button. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Ludi, I just wanted to ask on this one that you have been speaking about Saturday, where we will be required to speak a little about the greatest innovation. There is an assignment on that. So if you pick one, do you have to pick one that you speak about on Saturday, which will be the same as what you read about in the assignment, or not? Or you can pick 2 different. You can pick one for Saturday and pick something else for the assignment.
Themba, I can hardly hear you. Are you talking about the top innovations?
Yes.
Okay. You guys are going to go through the innovations. You're going to identify the 5 top innovations in your opinion, and then tell me why they are, in your opinion, the top innovations. And then you're obviously going to submit that anyway. But on Saturday, I want us to have a discussion about, because it's an individual assignment, so that we can all hear about who thinks what innovation is the top innovation, and just have a discussion on that to close off the Saturday session.
But does it have to be the same? So if I say let's say A was the top innovation on Saturday, do I have to stick to that when I write the assignment, or be something else?
No. No. There is a submission that you need to do, and then there's the discussion. The discussion is just so that we can learn from each other.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry, Ludi, I know there are lots of questions tonight, so I apologize in advance. And thank you for the ability to listen to the questions and to the objections. I've had to be in your shoes. And
I'm old enough to take.
It's a fantastic, it's a fantastic character trait, because people can become quite defensive. And so when I don't challenge out of disrespect. I challenge out of wanting to understand, and challenge to. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, I think creative thinking is about challenging your own concepts, ideas, precepts, way of thinking, methodology, all those things I think you need to challenge. And when I was looking at the assignment for the resolving creative team conflicts, I happened to read ahead, and we came to the section that spoke about mastering creative tension, and the whole article was about the lady from Toyota and the guy who went about essentially creating a car that was impossible to create. So he created a vehicle that was, at that point in time, just impossible and upset the entire market. I mean, he destabilized Mercedes-Benz and BMW. And it adds a different element to the creative team and conflict resolution, or the creative teams and creative conflict discussion forum, because I feel you could add to it by looking into that as well, but it becomes quite deep then. Again, it way exceeds possibly the 150 to 200 words that you're requiring from us at that stage. So I would assume that you wouldn't want us to go in depth for that forum, but it is definitely applicable in some way.
No, I'm not expecting that. No.
Okay, all right. But can I ask a question? One could apply the approach, without a doubt.
Yes.
You could pair opposites against each other to get the most from each other.
Yes.
Okay, right. Because I found the exceptionally interesting article. It was really insightful. But it seemed too complex for possibly the question you posed for the forum.
Okay. Yeah. Now,
so am I right in saying it? That it wouldn't apply there? Okay,
no.
Magic.
Probably.
Thank you very much. And thank you once again for listening, and thank you for being so objective to some of my statements and my queries.
No problem. Okay, guys, anything else? Wat se hond is dit, Levin? Show us the dog. Jy sal dit herken, hè, Cor?
Ja, dit is my barbecue.
Okay. Okay, if there's a Bassett. Nice. Very nice. Okay.
Guys, maybe add a comment.
Yes.
I actually had a team building in the bush, and we did a similar exercise to what our discussion was this week. This personality traits and that. It's not the same, but the process is similar. And so I'm really thinking about this type of thing. What is your role, and how to engage with people that think differently. So yeah, just as a blanket statement, I'm very excited about what we're learning now in our MBA class, and it's a value for what I'm busy with now. And sometimes just have to be to make an example. There's a well, I don't have to speak too loud, the guy can hear me, but there's a person in our group that just the example of the clarifier, where he just keeps on asking 101 questions, and he actually kind of got on my nerves. And learning the stuff in the MBA course now, just what, this guy's going through a process. He might pick up something that's good for everyone, and I don't get so I'm not that impatient with him anymore. And I just find that was valuable to me, because I can see where it's going now, and maybe work on some of my faults that I'm too impatient. So no, this is an exciting process, and it's happening at my work as I'm speaking now. So no, thanks for that.
Okay, no, great stuff. I spent many, many years of my life in advertising, working for advertising agencies, and I was also the owner of an ad agency for 9 years. And in advertising, you have brilliant advertising being produced by two people, actually. Yes, there's a whole lot of research that needs to be done to clarify the situation. One of the tools that you're going to be learning about next week is called Photosort. That's one that I designed way back in the 70s when I worked in the States. But the point is that you can clarify as much as you like, but at the end of the day, you've got to take all the information and then, put minds together to come up with a solution. And creative solutions in advertising come from people who think in terms of words and people who think in terms of pictures. And if you put a top words person with a top pictures person together, then you get the best solutions. But that's not where it stops. The word person could be, and they very often are, clarifiers and developers. Whereas the picture person doesn't want clarification. They want to come up with this wow picture. And that's what's going to happen in the advertising. And what we found in ad agency teams is that if you put different people together, you get nothing. And then you take the same people and put them with other people, and all of a sudden the brilliance is just there. And that's fascinating. So in my agency, I used analytical tools to identify the types of people to put the right people together. In other agencies, it so happened that just by accident, they get together and it's brilliant. Or they don't work together and they can't understand why. And then those people lose their jobs for the wrong reasons. It's not that they're not brilliant, they are, but in that setting where you have two people and two clarifiers cannot make a brilliant team. Two implementers cannot make a brilliant team, that kind of stuff. And that's really why this particular, I must say, this particular example of the team, it's a bit, but simply, it's a very simplistic explanation of it, but it has a lot of merit when you really dig into it.
Ludi, one more question from our side.
Yeah.
Are there ideal partners that sort of bring the most out of each other? For example, a clarifier and a developer, or a clarifier and an implementer, or an ideator and an implementer. Are there? I mean, we don't live in an ideal world, I understand that, but are there ideal combinations? So, for example, if you were picking a team and you had the ability to pick a team, and you said, right, so I had a clarifier, I had an ideator, a developer, an implementer, and I was looking for those roles, would you try and make sure that you then pair them up, that the one was the catalyst for the other? And even though they were so extreme, they brought the most out of each other, or is that not really possible?
Russell, the simple answer is yes. One should team people with different thinking profiles together rather than people from similar profiles. The complex answer is that people are not just a clarifier and a developer and an ideator and an implementer. They are combinations of that. And that's why it's very complex when you start putting people together, because it's not 100% this silo or 100% that silo. And it also has to do with personalities. And it has to do with the ability to want to work together. Some people will back off, other people will dominate. And this doesn't come through in this kind of analysis. So,
because I would imagine two strong ideators of a dominant personality that actually might really irritate each other. Both strong ideas, but because the strong personas want to enforce their idea upon the other one or the group. So it would be a combination of I'd imagine, personality types as well as, of course, thinking types.
Yeah. Can I tell you a story that happened last year? You probably know the company called L'Oreal. Mm-hmm. It's more known amongst the ladies than the men. But L'Oreal is a worldwide pharmaceutical company. Basically, facial care, hair care, body care, etc. And they run and have been running for the last 15 years a competition called the L'Oreal Brand Storm. And what they do is they challenge academic institutions around the world and they brief them and then the students work on the brief, and they have to come up with a solution to the problem. The academic institutions that are being briefed include design companies, advertising schools, business schools with MBA programs, universities that offer BCom marketings, etc., etc. Now, they have what they call chapters. So each country has a chapter where the different participants make their presentations, and then they select the winner from France, the winner from Germany, the winner from Netherlands, the winner from the UK, from South Africa, etc., etc., etc. And then in July, they normally have the world event where the chapter winners go to France, to L'Oréal head office in Paris, and then they present there. Now, last year, and of course, by the time when it goes to Paris, there is a report from the local L'Oréal company to say how strong they believe this particular entry is, or the winning team is, and what to expect. And I happened to sit on the judging panel in France last year, and we got all the presentations in advance. And just looking at the presentations in advance, I had in my mind who I thought the winners would be. And on the day, and it actually runs over 3 days, but during the event, we all thought that this particular team would win, and they came last, stone last. They had such a good presentation. The team consisted of 3 girls and a guy. They all brilliant. They are all highly intelligent. They are top-notch, but they are of similar personalities. And they each wanted to dominate the presentation. And by wanting to dominate the presentation, they killed what the other people wanted to do, because all 4 wanted to be the star of the presentation, and they destroyed each other. So it was such an interesting thing. And after the event, I wrote to L'Oréal and I said, I want you to send them this particular tool and just see, are they of similar thinking styles? And it came out that they were all 4 of them was exactly the same thinking style.
Do we touch at any point in time on the combination of thinking styles and personality styles?
No, unfortunately not. No, we don't have to. No, we're not going to do that. No, I just wanted to, in this week, I just wanted to alert you to this, and particularly if you're going to form teams in the future, just to be sensitive that try and steer away from like-minded people who work together in the same team. Because it can be
magic. Well, thank you very much. It's very insightful.
All right. All right. See you on Saturday then.
Keep well.
Cheers,
Bye-bye. See you.
Thanks. Ciao.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Oliver.